Hey, welcome to our intro to controlled articulated rotations. I'm Ken. I'll be walking you through what you need to know, and we start right off the bat with neck cars. Now, I talk a lot about neck when we do controlled articulated rotation because it's a part of your body that can be very sensitive. You want to make sure you're maintaining stability in your shoulders during the rotation, so that way you're not favoring one side or leaning your body over to force a movement. So thumbs up, so far so good. But yeah, getting to that last point, you want to create stability in your midsection to allow the focus to be on the neck during rotations. And you'll probably feel a little bit of stress as you look up and back, as that's a position our neck usually doesn't get to experience. So sometimes when you're rotating, you just want to be careful as you look backwards.
All right, so you see the speed of the recording. I speed some things up and slow some things down during the course of this full video to help keep you on track with what you need to do.
Going about 12 minutes here for the full video. I hope you're having fun. We put this together to help you walk through your cars. So here we go with T-spine. T-spine is your upper part of your spinal column above your lumbar area. So we want to target the upper spine. And when we're doing this, we want to keep the midsection nice and firm and focus the rotations on the very upper portion of your spine. It's be a little bit tricky. This is the perfect move that you need though if you're sitting at a desk, if you're experiencing some digital fatigue with using a keyboard or your cell phone. We find that we go into a forward tilt oftentimes. Doing some T-spine cars really helps loosen that up or keep you very mobile. Shoulder cars are definitely a challenge, especially if you're not accustomed to reaching fully through your range of motion. So that's why we do them. And the toughest part of doing shoulder cars, first off, is making sure you maintain body stability. So to assist with that, I put my hand over my belly and help keep my abs very strong to make a stable base from which to rotate from. I want to isolate that shoulder and work all the way through the movements. Now, I'm creating a circle and I'm rotating the shoulder in the socket as I complete that circle. And you'll see my hand is pointing outward, it's turning over, it's pointing outward at the top. And then as I cross over my body, my hand is pointing palm up and out. Switching arms, here we go. Stability, big circle, rotating outward with the palm at the top. Thumb pointed down, reaching back, palm pointed outward at the bottom. Toughest part for most folks is the reach back and the lift up. That's the area that people run into some struggles with because our rear shoulder extension is not one we normally do in our day-to-day life. So that musculature needs a little bit more activity to tune up. Keep on keeping on with those rotations, reach up and over, and then reach back. When we're reaching back, really feel through and raise that arm. Work on those shoulders. All right, time for elbow cars. This is a great, simple movement that highlights the internal and external rotation of your forearm and how much mobility you really have in your elbow, which is more than you might realize. As you're moving through this, this is the perfect muscle group to manage opening pickle jars and doing some manual labor. But it's also a common point for injury in sports like golf and tennis, where a lot of pressure is applied to the elbow at an angle, which may cause some discomfort. So you want to loosen up that tension. Oh, there goes a spectator in the background. This was filmed at Horsetooth Reservoir in Fort Collins, Colorado. Wrist cars, know them, you love them. Let's have some fun here. So I want you to imagine you have a platter of food on your forearm, and if you tilt your forearm one way or the other too far, you drop the food off of your arm. So if you roll your arm, you're going to drop the platter of food. You want to keep it super even, and then maybe put your arm underneath there as a support device, and then focus entirely on rotating the wrist and the wrist only. Now, the wrist is a gliding joint that has incredible capability, but we have them locked up typing on keyboards using cell phones so frequently that a lot of our wrist control has started to atrophy. So we dig deep on these wrist rotations to explore that full range of motion to make sure you're eking out every little bit of muscular skeletal connection. When we go to the other side, of course, we want to keep it nice and even. Isolate that wrist and go into rotations. And you want to keep the elbow out of the rotation. What you might discover is that in order to rotate your wrist, you might try to rotate your elbow. And that's what we call joint interdependence. We want to avoid that. We want to maximize the mobility of the wrist independent from the elbow rotating to facilitate that movement. That's tricky. That's why we practice. But in order to overcome a dysfunctional wrist pattern, you have to reinforce a proper pattern. So give yourself time to do that. And on the way, hey, check it out. We can do reverse wrist push-ups. This is definitely an awesome side effect to working on your wrist mobility, is being able to empower joints to do things maybe you didn't think you could do. So give your joints a chance to grow by using techniques like controlled articulated rotations, and you'd be surprised at what kind of power your body really has. It's time for hip cars. This is another tricky one because we have to stand on one foot for an extended period of time and keep your balance. But let's walk through this together, and I'm sure this will work great for you. So what we're doing is starting from a figure 4 position, rotating the leg, sending the foot up and back, contracting the hamstring, closing the hip back down again, open the hip, release the hamstring, rotate forward, back into the figure 4. As you're doing this, keep that balance on one foot, and I keep my angle a little bit lower from the hip, meaning we're not trying to lift the knee too high up in the air, because when you do that, sometimes we lean over and it ends up being counterproductive because we have some joint compensation. All right, so then switching up our legs, the knee goes about to a 45-degree angle. Wait a minute, we're just going to break it down and start dancing. It's a little bit of a faster hip rotation going on right there, but that's why we do hip cars. It allows us to get free and open and move better. So, contracting that hamstring, rotating forward, crossing the leg over. All right, now the speed of the video is going up a little bit faster. You don't have to go this fast, obviously. The slower generally, the better. But we did want to make this video brief enough to walk through any morning you want to train. So you can just watch this and get ready to train harder every morning, staying consistent with your controlled articulated rotations. This is prep for knee rotations. So we get down the floor, we isolate the knee, and we start rotating the lower leg at the point of the knee. And this is generally a very interesting sensation because you learn the interworkings of rotational capacity in your knee. And once you warm it up, you get the synovial fluid going, and then you go into full knee cars. All right. So we're rotating, extending, rotating, contracting. Now what's happening here is an internal rotation, then an extension, and an external rotation, and then a contraction on the knee. Again, this is sped up a little bit, so you don't need to go this fast if you're training at home. You want to take your time and feel your way through and make sure that you're very much in control of your movements. And you might feel some new sensations in there. You might have some snap, crackle, pops going on in the knee joint, but it's definitely worth your while to work through this, especially if you're a runner, if you're putting a lot of pressure on your legs, if you're moving around a lot, if you got a lot of miles on your knees. Like myself, I played football for a very long time, so there's definitely a lot of wear and tear in my leg. That's why I take time to work through this slowly, methodically, and focused on accentuating the internal and external rotations of the leg, specifically at the knee, through full extension and contraction. And finally, ankle cars. Ankle cars. All right, so let's rotate the ankle. Remember, we want to keep that joint independent from other rotations or movements in the body. We want to isolate the ankle. I'm doing it from a standing position, which is perfectly fine as long as you're able to maintain your balance. And you want to enter full extension and full flexion in the ankle so you can experience that full range of motion we always talk about. Ankle is another high impact zone in our body that needs extra movement because our shoes, believe it or not, are contributing to some of our ankle issues. You know, as it turns out, wearing really comfortable shoes all the time might be constricting a lot of what your foot is capable of doing. So once you take the shoes off and get to train a little more barefoot, get to really experience what your foot ankle region can do. So highlighting that ankle, really rotating through, getting the full workout. So that wraps up our controlled articulated rotations video. I hope this was helpful for you to get you up and moving to work on your joints and long-term joint health. This is all in good fun, folks, so relax and enjoy the process of working on your joints, getting stronger and more mobile. I'd love to help you further. You can reach me at moremobileyoga@gmail.com, and go ahead and get out there and get moving, folks. Joint mobility matters. So thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day.